My name is James Shepard, and I'd like to welcome you to this morning's Succeed Today call. Today we're going to talk about organizing your life. The journey to organize my life really started back several years ago. I had gotten into sales, and I had my first sales job. And at that sales job, I started off as a single guy, and so I was working a lot of hours. I got promoted to a lower level management position, kind of a supervisor role. And so I had about 10 people working for me in the supervisor role. And, I started working about probably 90 to 100 hours a week. But again, I was single. I was still living at home with my parents. I was making really good money. And so I really didn't mind, the hours and the amount of work that I was, putting in. It was actually a lot of fun for me. But then about a year, later, actually I guess about 2 years later, I got another promotion to a job, and literally a week before I started that new job, I got back from my honeymoon. So I'd gotten married. They gave me this promotion. I found out after I'd already bought the house where my wife and I were going to live that they wanted me to go to a different location that was about an hour and 15 minutes one way from the house that I had purchased for myself and my new bride. And so I realized I had an hour and 15 minute commute ahead of me. Things went pretty well for the first 6 or 7 months. I had a good staff. I had a boss that really liked me. Then some things changed in my career, and the job requirements just got absolutely overwhelming for me. And one day I was driving, my hour and 15 minute commute, and just so depressed about the day. Here I'd just gotten married, and I'm leaving at, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and getting back at 11 o'clock at night, 5-6 days a week. And I'm still getting to work and feeling overwhelmed, with the amount of responsibilities. I walked into my office and saw these huge stacks of paper everywhere on my desk. And it was then that I realized I am in over my head. And so I either need to learn how to organize my life, or I need to quit this job because my marriage and this job will not work together. And so I really started on a quest then to learn how to organize my life and read as many books as I could. And so today I'm not sharing with you really anything amazing or anything that, is going to blow your mind. I'm going to share with you basically 3 really simple things that I've learned over the last, I guess, about 6 years, that have really allowed me to organize my life, in a way that I like, and in a way that allows me to do the things that are important to me, to spend time with my family, to be passionate about my work. And so I really hope that these 3 tips will help you as you strive to organize your life. First of all, I want to start out with a quote. Now, I don't know if this quote is original with Dave Ramsey, but I heard him say it recently. Tell your time where to go, or you will wonder where it went. How many of you have had this experience? You get up in the morning and you go to work. You work really hard all day just running and running and running and doing this and doing that and helping this customer and helping that customer. And you get home 10 hours later, you sit down on the couch, turn the TV on, and your spouse says, "What did you do today?" And you're like, "I have no idea." Because, your time just kind of just went somewhere, How many times have you gotten to the end of a week and looked back and thought, where did that week go? Tell your time where to go, or you will wonder where it went. So the first of 3 tips I'm going to give you this morning is create a simple block schedule. Create a simple block schedule. Now, this is a screenshot of a block schedule I threw together this morning as kind of an example of the one that I used to have as a independent sales partner. What I would do is I split my day up into 4 different 2-hour time blocks. as far as my workday from 9 to 5. And so I would then spend 2 of those hours prospecting. Prospecting is where I would go out and meet new business owners. So I would go and meet business owners that I'd never met before. Now sometimes that would mean I was going back to a business where the owner wasn't available the first time I went, but now the owner would be available. And so, I would go back for that. Sometimes I was just walking into a business for the first time, but that was my prospecting. Then I'd spend 2 hours a day on follow-up. Follow-up is where I'm going back to meet a business owner that I've already met. So maybe it was to, get some more information to do a presentation or whatever it might be. Then another 2-hour time block for customer service. And then as you can see here, I would leave my 11 to 1 o'clock 2-hour time block open, and that was what I call my margin. And that left me a little extra room in case an emergency came up of some kind, whether it was personally or work-related. I could go take care of that issue. And if not, I would take some time to relax, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? So this kind of gives you an idea, and again, you can see how I would do it. I would just kind of, but the prospecting, I would always do prospecting either from 9 to 11 or 1 to 3. In our business, we go after small business owners, and that's just simply the best time to prospect. It's much more effective and efficient. And so I would go, during those times. Then I would do my follow-up. I would usually do that more in the morning as well, but sometimes I would do, maybe one of them in the later, from the 3 to 5 time block. And then customer service, I would do maybe one morning, but I would try to keep those to later in the day when my time wouldn't be as effective out prospecting. I would, go follow up with customers on their terminals and things of that nature. Okay? You can see here, this is, I've kind of moved, let me go back here. So on this screen, we're from 9 to 5 right here. And then this screen is from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the evening. And so then you can see here as we get into the evening, I also had some blocks in there for things like administrative work, doing paperwork. Every other day I would do paperwork. So if I made a sale on, Tuesday, then I would key that in on Wednesday evening. That's just how I did it. I wanted to get in a good flow. So every other day I spent, anywhere from on Monday I would work really late and do a lot of paperwork, do a lot of administrative stuff, make sure my schedule was really well organized for the week. Then, again, on Wednesday, I'd spend an hour doing, usually I'd have a sale or two to key in there. Then again, on Friday, I'd have a couple hours to key in sales or, do paperwork. Okay. Then, of course, you can see some other things I had in here, my block schedule. I have personal time in here. This is just time where I could do whatever I wanted to do. I have my date night in there where I'd spend time with my wife. And so we get a babysitter. Now we get a babysitter on our date night because we have a couple kids. And, we have a date night. And so we would go out and, maybe we just, rent a movie. Maybe we go, see a movie. Maybe we, whatever, just go out to eat or something. We have also the youth program. You can see that kind of fills up a lot of my schedule as well. I'm a youth pastor. And so, we have some different things, in there. Okay, so my first tip to you is quite simply create a block schedule. Now, a block schedule is really a roadmap. It's not a specific appointment schedule. I have 2 different schedules. I didn't do an appointment schedule here to show you that, but we have the block schedule first. And what I would do is I would actually create a block schedule like this, and then I would print it out, and I actually kept it with me. I have a copy in my office, and then I had a copy with me everywhere I went. For several months, I had a copy with me all the time, and then I was able to pretty much memorize the roadmap. So in other words, the power of this is that it allows you to funnel certain tasks into their appropriate block scheduled time. So if a prospect asks you to follow up on a Tuesday, then you know that on Tuesday you're going to be following up from 3 to 5. So you're going to ask them first, hey, are you available, around say 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow? Now, of course, if they're not available, you could always do a follow-up earlier in the day on Tuesday, but this is just kind of a roadmap to help you try to gauge where your time needs to go and help you get into a rhythm for your week, so that, again, you're controlling where your time goes. So a block schedule is very powerful, very important. You can kind of see how I did it here. Just create different colors for different things that you do. Create a basic block schedule, print it out, then have another schedule where you put your actual appointments. You actually have appointments in that schedule. Okay? Tip number 2, manage your energy and emotions not just your time. Now, for some of you that might use audible.com or the Audible app, there is a book there in the Harvard Business Review. They have a little article that you can listen to. It's about 45 minutes long, and it's called Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time. And this is really very powerful thing. Managing your energy and your emotions, not just your time. What you need to do is you look at your schedule, and many people look at that schedule and say, okay, I'm going to make a really efficient schedule. But what you have to understand is that everybody has a certain flow to their day. Some people, for instance, are very energetic in the morning. I am not one of those people. So I'll give you a couple examples of how to use this. For me personally, I like to schedule an appointment first thing in the morning with someone. And the reason I do that is because it helps me to get out of bed because I have somewhere I have to go. So when I was out prospecting, I would try to set up an appointment with somebody even at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning sometimes. And okay, they said, well, the owner's not in, but you can come back tomorrow. I'd say, okay, could I come in here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning? Yeah, that's fine. So I would be, okay, let him know I'll be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I did that because I knew I had to manage my energy and my emotions. When I get up in the morning, I don't want to get up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so I would try to manage my energy, try to manage my time. I'll give you another example of that. I use podcasts and audiobooks to manage my emotions. As you saw in my schedule there's several times in the week where I switch back and forth between work, then a date night, then work, then a youth program, then work, and then, being at home with the kids or whatever. So one of the things I do is I have several different audiobooks and podcasts that I listen to at different times during the week. For instance, when I'm driving to to the youth program, then there's a podcast I listen to by a pastor about ministry work. And so what that does is that really gets me into ministry mode. And so I'm thinking about that. When I go to work, I'll listen to a sales audiobook or a business book, and that gets me in the mood in the morning. Okay, it's time for business, and that gets me in my emotions and my gets me in that mode. If I have a marriage book that I listen to on Audible, I think it's called The Meaning of Marriage. And so if I'm going to have a date night, then I'll stop working about 15 minutes before I head home, and I'll listen to that marriage book. And by the time I get home, I'm thinking about my spouse and thinking about, how I could be a better husband. So, I'm managing my emotions, based on, these audiobooks and podcast programs that I listen to. So you have to think about that. Think about the sleep that you're getting, thinking about the margin in your schedule. Make sure you take time to relax, right? Look at this cat. Is that relaxed or what? I love that picture. Take some time to relax. You got to have a little margin in your schedule. That's why I have the time from 11 to 1. That's 2 hours in there. You might say, well, that's a really long lunch break. How can that be productive? Well, the reason it's productive is that, first of all, if anything else comes up, I'm able to get that done. So if my wife calls and asks me to do something for her, I do it, when I was selling, I would do it during that 2 hour break, and I would just go get that done. So it wouldn't affect my other time. So it would allow me when I'm at work to be at work and to really be focused. Also, it really helped me to kind of reset my mind. I did a lot of prospecting in the morning. And to be honest with you guys, 2 hours of prospecting is actually pretty tiring. It really wears you out emotionally because, it's difficult. You're walking in and just talking to people you've never spoken to before and trying to get a relationship going. It's very difficult. And it's very draining. And so I like to take a little extra time and just relax there and then get into the rest of my day. And so take time to relax, manage your energy and your emotions. Finally, number 3, my third tip for you today is stop prioritizing and start acting. Stop prioritizing and start acting. If you asked me, James, what is the biggest mistake that people make in organizational systems? I've helped a lot of people that work for me, develop their organizational system, and without a doubt, the biggest mistake that I see people making is that their organizational system is all about priorities. And it's not really about action. Now, I have a very, very simple priority system. I have 2 levels of priorities in my life. I have things that are important enough to do, and then I have things that are not important enough to do. Those are my 2 levels of priority. Either something is important enough for me to do it, or it's not important enough for me to do it. If it's important enough for me to do it, then I do it. Right then, immediately, I take action on it and I get it done. If it isn't important enough for me to do, then I decide that I'm not going to do it. I don't put it in a callback file. I don't put it in a ideas folder. I don't put it in a let me think about this tomorrow folder. I simply tell the person no, or I just delete that item from my calendar, or I put that email in non-action, or I decide not to return that phone call. If it's not important, I'm not going to do it. If it is important, I am going to do it, and I'm going to do it right now. Now, how do you put this into an organizational system? How do you make a simple organizational system? Well, the one that I like to use is Gmail, and I'll show you a screenshot in a moment, but Gmail has one of the best organizational systems through its integration with Google Calendar and Google Voice. Now, this is really one of the secrets to my success, and one of the reasons I decided to do this training was that I had a younger guy here that's in college, and he's our content manager, Josh Deku, and I was showing him some things the other day. He was showing me his email inbox and asking my advice about his organizational system, and he said, well, good night, I can't do your organizational system. He said, you're an email ninja. That's what he called me, was an email ninja. I never heard that before. So I said, well, okay. I said, maybe I'll do a little training on that and show, kind of what we do there. But, basically, guys, in Gmail, what I do is I have my Google Calendar set up to where whenever I have an event coming up, I send email notifications to myself. So my calendar sends things to my email inbox. I use Google Voice, or I used to use Google Voice pretty much all the time for my voicemails when I was a sales partner. So when somebody would call me and leave me a message or even text me, it's going to send that to my email inbox. So I had everything in one email inbox. And so when I had time to go through my inbox and during kind of the down times in the day, I would take time to go through my email inbox. I would start at the top, and I would just go from one item to the next. I was always checking my email inbox. I was always keeping it at 0, So the idea was I'm not going to let anything sit in my email inbox. If it comes into my email inbox and it's important, then I'm going to do it. If it comes into my email inbox and it's not important, then I am not going to do it. Okay? Here we go. Last slide. Let me just show you a simple screenshot here. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is over to the left. You will see that I have several folders. Now, of course, I have the inbox, which is where everything comes. Then I have a couple other folders. Now, you don't need to worry about the James's inbox. That's kind of a newer feature for me that with my administrative assistant. But if you look at the top there, you can see that I have a non-action folder. Now, the way that I manage my inbox is very simple. When an item comes into my inbox, I decide, is this important enough and for me to do? And if it is, what is the next action I can take? Can I take that action right now? If I can, then I take that action and then I move that message to non-action. If I literally cannot take the action right now, or if it's going to take me 30 minutes or an hour to take that action, then I do one of two things. I either move it over to the appropriate folder, which you can see over to the left. I have a folder for each day of the week, right? Then also below that, I have monthly folders. So I can say, I need to take action on this, but I can't do it until April. So I move it into April's folder, okay? Now, the other thing I might do is, I might say, I don't have time to take action on this right now. It's going to take an hour, or it's going to take 45 minutes. Then I go to my calendar, my appointment calendar, and I make an appointment of when I'm going to do that, and then I put the message in non-action, because once it's time for me to do that, my calendar is going to send me a new email reminding me to take that action step. So I literally have it taken up where everything, when I see a message, it either goes into non-action, or I take action on it, or I take it and move it to the next time when I'm going to take action. Then each day when I get to the office, I pull up my folder for the day, and I move all the messages from that folder back into the inbox. And then I start at the top and work my way down. And so that is how I manage, that's how I manage my email inbox. Okay? Now, those are my 3 tips for you on how to more effectively organize your life. And so I hope that those were a help to you today. Again, let's just run through those again, really quickly here. First of all, tell your time where to go, or you will be wondering where it went. Create a simple block schedule. So make sure you have a simple block schedule. Manage your energy and your emotions, not just your time. So start thinking about, how am I supposed to manage my emotions and my energy? When should I do this task? When, is this a task that I need lots of energy and lots of focus for? Lots of mental energy? Okay. Well, when am I mentally the most sharp, to do this task? And everybody's different, So you got to start to manage your energy and your emotions, not just your time. Okay. Take time to relax. Stop prioritizing and start acting. So if you have one of the organizational systems where you've got, A, B, C priorities, and underneath each of those there's levels 1 through 7, stop really doing that as much and focus more on, as soon as something comes in, take action right now and get it done. Okay? My name is James Shepard. Thank you so much. Have a great day.